Hey guys, welcome back to another Weird Wednesday. I'm Ashers, and this is
Pat O.
Pat. Oh, how was your weekend?
My weekend was pretty good. It was a lot better than last weekend. It was this weekend was me decompressing, just kind of unplugging, and I had to be real honest with myself. I kind of got burnt out over the past couple of weeks, which happens to me from time to time. You know, um, I have three podcasts. I have this. I have Y2K, which is twice a week. I have the Weird World, which is once a month. I got movie shit going on. I'm in a D&D game that I run once a month. I'm in another D&D game that I play twice a month. I got two kids, two dogs, two baby mamas. I work for the fucking city of Chicago. Like, I had a lot going on, and I kind of got to the point where I was just like, enough, and took social media off my phone, with the exception of Twitter, because Twitter is too much goddamn fun, and just like chill the fuck out this weekend. You know, watched TV, read books, played video games,
That's
spent
cool.
time with my family. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah,
just did the chill out thing. I watched a decent amount of Graham Hancock's Ancient Apocalypse, which hit Netflix. It has a lot to do with the theory that there was an ancient civilization that was that was very technologically advanced, that was wiped out by potentially what we consider to be like the Great Flood. And there's some talk of giants and stuff in there. It's pretty interesting. A lot of people hate on him, which is bizarre. Reading some of the responses almost made me want to take Twitter off my phone, but I didn't. But reading like kind of the internet's reaction to this series hitting Netflix this week was very interesting. People call him racist and stuff. Do you have any opinion on any of this stuff?
I don't know anything about any of this stuff. Is it
He's
is it fiction or nonfiction?
No, it's nonfiction. It's a docu-series. Graham Hancock is a famous historian and author. His book "America Before the Key to Earth's Lost Civilization" is actually what first got me in interested in the Serpent Mound in Ohio. The first chapter of that book talks all about the mounds of Ohio and how old they are and the different theories on them and stuff. So he's been he's been on my radar for a while. He's a guest on Joe Rogan, which I know you're not a fan of, but he's kind of made the rounds, and they gave him his own 8-part Netflix series, which I didn't watch the whole thing because I don't binge watch shit, but I got through the. I think I have like 2 or 3 episodes left, and it's interesting. It's kind of this theme that I guess I've been inadvertently like. It's been a recurring theme in a lot of the stuff that media I've been consuming lately, because it kind of touches upon the giant theories. You look at these massive, well, like megalithic structures that they find, and one of the people say, well, how did they move rocks this big, and how did they do these feats of engineering? It's like, well, if you were dealing with a species that was bigger than your average human, it wouldn't have been as daunting, you know. Not that he believes in giants, and a lot of the theories behind these structures, if you look at the indigenous people to that area, and you talk about the legends of how these things were built, a lot of them involve giants. But Hancock's theory is that it wasn't necessarily physical giants; it was people of superior intelligence that the indigenous people regarded as giants. And that's where some of the racism theories come in, because if you suggest that the pyramids in Mexico weren't built by the indigenous people, that they were built by people from Atlantis that might have been of a different skin color, even though you're not making it about race, some people make that about race and say that what you're suggesting is racist. You know what I mean? Which is really fucking goofy to me, but whatever. Um, so yeah, that was watching that was a big part of my weekend, and it was enjoyable, I guess. But I don't know. That's it. What
Well,
what'd you have going on this weekend?
nothing. I didn't do nothing. I tried to write some more book, and
How's that going?
it's going. I get really just like with a lot of things that I do. It's not. made a post on social media. I said, writing books is hard, man, or whatever. And, it's not necessarily that it's hard because, like, I know the knowledge. I have the knowledge in my brain. I've got the
Uh,
knowledge on paper scattered around me in my life. But it's putting it all together in a way that flows well, that makes sense, and actually getting the motivation to just fucking do it. You know, um, Doing it is the hardest part. you know, at least, for me, it has been. Some people had mentioned, writing, fiction, and I'm sure that's very difficult. I can't even begin to imagine. I would, no, thank you. But, it's been coming along. So my goal is to have copies at the Frogman Festival. So you've heard it here. I have to hold myself accountable. That is the goal right now. And the Frogman Festival is March 2023, March 4th. So
you can do that. You know what?
yeah, absolutely.
It's all about outlining and allowing yourself to do multiple drafts. Okay, don't get it right, get it written.
Right. I agree with that. Yes.
Yes, as the saying goes. This is the first draft. You're just trying to put up the framework of the house. You're not worrying about where the ottoman's going to go. You're not
And
worried about wallpaper, bathroom
the first
fixtures.
draft of my first book, I know it's not going to be perfect, and
Right, but you'll get it done, and then you kind of see what you have, and you can shift the pieces around. And we've had a bunch of great female authors on our show in the past. I'm sure you could reach out to one or two of them as just like readers, be like, hey, what do you think?
oh, I've had a bunch of people offer, which is awesome. When I'm definitely going to get back to you guys as soon as I get it done. But that is the problem: is just doing it, just sitting down and doing it.
Yeah.
But I, slowly but surely, I've been making some headway. I'm like trying to make a good schedule for myself in my life. When you work for yourself,
Dude.
it's hard because it's chaotic.
That's everything right there, is just the
Yeah.
scheduling. Yeah.
Right. And you know what? I 100% believe in a dedicated schedule to an organized life, and I'm trying to build that, and that has been hard, but I have been successfully doing it. So, but I mean, I worked on that a little bit. I just, I put my Halloween decorations away. I'm getting ready to put my Christmas decorations up,
Right.
basic life shit. But I did have an exciting Saturday.
Okay.
Yep, because I received my Manscaped package.
Oh, here we go.
So that was super exciting. Yes, we have picked up a sponsor, you guys, Manscaped, and we absolutely need your help. And I am just going to be 1,000% transparent with you and tell you that I need you to go buy shit from them. I need you to go to their website and buy shit from them. Okay, we have a code that you can use to buy shit from them. Stay weird. You get 20% off your purchase, but also it helps us tremendously. I mean, I am telling you right now that you are going to go to manscaped.com and you are going to buy something from them.
Using promo code Stay Weird, one word, STAYWEIRD. Stay Weird.
You can get 20% off and free shipping.
Yes, you do. And we have joined the pantheon of great shillmen at like Pete Davidson. He's their other spokesperson. Did you see that?
No, I didn't see that.
Yeah, I have strong Pete Davidson energy. I am like equal parts Pete Davidson and Nick Cannon. Without the money, unfortunately.
Yeah. I can relate to Pete Davidson.
Yeah. He pulls out of his league, which I've managed to do. And I think it's in no small part because of his finely trimmed pubic hair.
Yeah, absolutely.
You wonder how people like us do all the things that we talk about. We're paranormal investigators. We are podcasters. We are filmmakers. We are writers. And there's no way that you can do all that and raise kids and be occult experts and researchers in the field of cryptozoology without having a finely honed bush. It's just not going to fucking happen, right?
That's fact.
Yeah,
I mean, you don't want to be out there squatching and then you give away your location to a squatch because your balls are sweating all over the place. You got to go to Manscaped. You got to get you a trimmer. You got to get you some ball deodorant. Okay.
Yes, I saw that in the promo pack we got. I was like, oh my God. I don't think my wife would allow me to anoint my testicles before leaving the house. I think I got to save that for date night or something. You don't want to.
No, it was actually great. No, so they sent us a package. Okay, again, just transparency here. They sent
Yeah.
us free shit to sell it to you guys.
Yes.
And what we got in the package was a T-shirt, which is great. It says "Your balls will thank you." I really enjoyed it. I wore it all day Sunday. Well, I didn't take a picture, but I was cleaning, so it was great. It was great. They sent us a pair of boxers, which I haven't worn yet. It's cold. It's been
Yeah.
snowing here, so not yet.
You guys got snow already?
We did, yeah. It snowed over the weekend.
Oh,
Yeah,
fucking
so it was, yeah, it was definitely like a stay at home and just kind of vibe type of weekend. So
jelly, bro, jelly.
that's why the Christmas decorations. I'm like, I got to get this done. I got to get this tree up. It's time.
Right.
But anyway, then we got a trimmers, and I'm definitely going to use, I can definitely use the trimmers. I'm excited. It's actually really fucking nice. And then an ear and nose hair trimmer so I can trim my ear and nose hair.
I have. I'm unfortunately, as a 41-year-old man, I own one of those already. But I'm interested to. I'll be excited to give this one a shot.
Oh, compare it.
And I'll tell you this: if you're a man above, I think I got my first nose hair trimmer when I was like 35. If you're a dude in his mid to late 30s, you need one of these, whether or not you realize it or not. And if no one's told you that you need one of these, this is your old friend Dr. X. Take it from a doctor like me. You need one of these, okay? I mean, and if you're a hairy kid, then you probably need one too. But you reach the point in your life where you do need one of these. And I haven't tried it out yet, but I bet it can also be pretty useful trimming your butthole.
That is a good point.
Yes, cleaning up that whole area back there.
You got to clean up your hole. You got to have a clean hole. I mean, especially if you're like me and you're an anal queen, you got to have, I might try that out. I don't advise sticking a nose hair trimmer up your butthole, by the way.
No. I'm just talking about just dancing around the lily pad.
Dancing around the hole. So full transparency here. Once again, I don't clean shave my bush.
Of course not. You'll look like you have herpes.
Trim my bush. Yeah, I don't like to clean shave my bush. It's not good for you. You shouldn't do that. You don't get you get a lot less risk of infection and things like that. But you should clean up down there, and I'm a big fan of cleaning up down there. And I'm excited to try out these new trimmers with compared to the one I have. The one I had previously was like a $10 something, some Chinese something from Amazon, and it gets the job done. But let's see what Manscaped's got. So, and I'm gonna use the ball deodorant. I mean, I'm not gonna put it in my holes, but I'm gonna use it. So.
We don't need to explain it to you guys. You're already on Wednesdays We Talk Weird listeners, and you already realize the subjective nature of reality, okay? Reality is perception. It's all smoke and mirrors, and a fresh fade on your download just makes everything look bigger. All right. As soon as I was old enough to have pubic hair, I realized that I needed to trim my pubic hair because it made my dick look bigger. All right. You don't want your bush to be bigger than your unit. All right. And I know that probably half of our listeners out there inundate Ashers with dick pics on a regular
Constantly.
basis. She's not accepting them anymore unless you've been properly manscaped first.
That's true. That's true.
So the only way she wants to get pictures of them is if you're holding your Manscaped shaver that you bought using promo code Stay Weird for 20% off and free shipping next to it. All right.
That is accurate. I will accept those dick pictures.
It's like properly shaved balls.
And the sales just fucking hit the roof. Manscaped's like, what the fuck? Love these guys.
So we're gonna be doing this promotion for like a month, and that means you have to. I'm sure the people that hate the show are listening right now, cringing because they realize that
they said that we talk about our genitals all the time.
License to like talk about our pubes for the next month, which we would have done anyway. But like, I haven't. Here's the thing: I haven't. It came in the mail today. I haven't used it yet because honestly, I do keep my shit fucking trim. Like I have one of these. It's an off-brand one that I use as like a beard trimmer, and to kind of keep my nuts in check. And I got to give it probably like a week. I'm not actually going to be on next week's show either. I'm traveling abroad. But the week after that, when I return, I'm going to let my stuff grow out so that I can use it. Because it is, and this, I know I kind of said this jokingly, but like this is something that seriously I realized when I was still in high school. Like, dudes, like it makes all the difference in the world. Do not have a big bush. Like, I don't mind ladies with a big bush because sometimes you just like to get messy. Sometimes you're just a messy eater. You know what I mean?
Sure.
But
you already got a napkin right there.
Just right. Just something you just want to bury your fucking face in it. But like when it comes to the like flipping the script, Girls don't want to deal with that.
Yeah, no. I'm not
Yeah,
putting your balls near my mouth if they're overgrown and I can't find them.
right. It's gross. It's more sanitary. It keeps it clean. It's all the same arguments that people use for circumcision, but it keeps it clean. It keeps the hair out of their face and stuff, and it just makes it look bigger. It photographs better. It's all smoke and mirrors, right? So you're going to need to do this anyway. If you're one, and I know that there's people out there that don't. Like, this was something that I would still run into in my 30s, right? Where like you would come across somebody and you'd be like, oh my god, they don't shave their pubes. Because I get it, like, for girls, because it's a daunting task. I don't know how you guys walk around with all of the fucking shit that you have going on down there, but what's nice about the Manscaper is that it's got built-in guards that protect from like nicking yourself and hurting yourself. It's not like using, like, my beard trimmer has like little, like, you could put like a number 1 on there or whatever, like little guards
Yeah.
for if you're doing your. This has it built in and it protects it, so you're not gonna. This is a device specifically made for shaving your genitalia, so it's not gonna hurt it. It's not gonna give you razor burn. It's not gonna make you look like you got herpes or warts, which is the other. Which, like you were saying, you don't shave your stuff because if you do, it looks, and you nick it, it just looks terrible, and it defeats the whole purpose
Yeah,
of trying to make that area aesthetically
dangerous.
pleasing.
You
Yeah.
know, but even if you're not wanting to shave your genitals, that's fine. They have other stuff too. That I was checking it out. Some of the cheapest items on their website, you guys. Lip balm, $12.99 for a pack of lip balm. $12.99 for a body wash. Get knock a couple of Christmas items off your list and support the show. At the same time, go to manscaped.com. Use code Stay Weird, 20% off and free shipping. So
yeah, great stocking stuffer. Holidays are on the way. Christmas, Kwanzaa.
You can find something to buy to support us on this website, I promise.
great gifts for the men and women in your life.
And women in your life, yep.
And
exactly.
boss, if you have
boss, yeah.
office parties where you got to bring shit.
Get your boss some ball spritz or whatever the spray is. Or
your employees.
Or your employees, yeah.
If you're a boss yourself, just hand them out to all your underlings.
Make a little stocking out of it. Whatever. Do whatever. I don't care what you do. All I care is that you go there and you make a purchase and you use our code and you support the show. That's what I care about.
Now, if people make a purchase and they use the promo code and they screen grab a copy of their receipt and they send it to us, what are we going to do?
I did think about that.
And what did you come up with?
I didn't really come up with anything, I guess.
Okay.
Pato, we could do a giveaway.
Ooh, fanny packs?
No, fanny packs.
Fanny pack. I don't know about that.
Yeah, because not everybody will want a fanny pack. We could just do a t-shirt. We could put everybody's name that buys one into a drawing and do a giveaway a backpack.
What if we did an episode where we had all the people come on?
I don't think everybody's going to want that either.
Really?
Yeah. Not everybody is comfortable in front of a camera or microphone, Pato.
Oh, no, we would do it on Zoom. I mean, we wouldn't have to do it on. We don't do camera shit. I don't know. We'll think about it. We're gonna let this one percolate.
There will be something. Yeah, so there'll be something. We'll throw in a little something extra. That's not strictly Manscaped. If you guys do make an order and send it to us, send us the just either me or Pato. Send us a screenshot of your order.
I could send you a bunch of feet pictures.
Oh my god!
I just got sitting here. I ain't doing shit with. From our last promotional drive.
From your last promo,
right? I am a struggling ad man, just trying to figure out a way to connect with our audience.
Let's move on. We've been talking about this for like 10 minutes. I don't want to overload you guys with the excitement.
You got any news
of having clean shaven balls? Yeah, I do. I do. So I don't know exactly what date this happened, but I came across this situation that had been going down about so there's a website, okay? It's called dreamlandresort.com, all right? and it's ran by a gentleman who lives like super close. I mean, purposely bought a house super close to Area 51 and updates this website regularly about the happenings over there. And, and I don't mean just like, oh, I looked out my window today, there was a plane. Like, I mean, like, he's digging through documents and it's all declassified information. None of it's secret. So within the last week, I believe, his home was raided by the FBI. Not just his home, but he's got 2 homes and they were both raided by the FBI. And he doesn't really know why. Nobody really knows why right now. So that's interesting. That's something to think about.
Yeah.
Again, is it because this guy is compiling this information? Because all the information that he shares, it's not like it's stuff that you couldn't find yourself, but it's not like it's easy to find. I tell people that a lot with these government documents. A lot of information is already out there. It's just that who the hell's going to read it all? Not everybody does, right? Barely anybody does, for that matter. Barely anybody even knows how. But he's compiling it into an easy to read format in one place. Is that why? Was this some type of threat?
How much do you want to bet he gets busted for kiddie porn?
I don't know, because he's been pretty open about the raid happening since it happened. I mean, he had gotten, since then he'd gotten back online. He's been open and transparent.
Well, then but he hasn't said exactly what it was for?
No, he doesn't really even know for sure what it was for.
Wow.
He wasn't arrested, right? He wasn't detained, but they were held at gunpoint while they took all of his devices, everything that he owns.
Wow.
Yeah. So, it kind of takes a minute for these things to, come out. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. It's interesting. George Knapp, which I'm sure plenty of you guys know, he kind of broke the news mostly on this on Twitter. He made a post about it. But there hasn't really been any updates yet. So I believe it happened November 7th, but I can't tell. So,
man, I'll keep an eye on that one. I think that is something that all of us that do this kind of thing worry about to a certain extent. Like every girl kind of walks around afraid that a dude might low-key kill her. Everyone that does one of these shows where we talk about this stuff, you're a potential target. If you believe what you're really kind of selling, then why wouldn't you be at risk for this?
Right. And some people there are talks of people that have allegedly been offed, and there's other people that have been raided and, things like that. So, maybe we should do an episode on that. People that may have been killed because of the government. Or maybe we shouldn't, probably.
Yeah, that was the whole... No. Yeah, I've been... I think this is something that we've talked about before. Like, is there ever anything that you didn't want to touch because you were afraid of reprisal or you were afraid of something? Because I feel like this is a question that we've brought up before. And I know for me, the answer is yes. Like you kind of know your limits and, this is, come on, we're goofballs that you're a little bit more serious about this than I am. But even then, we just got done shilling fucking ball shavers for the past 10 minutes.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? We're not trying to bring the heat down.
Yeah, manscaped.com. Use code Stay Weird, 20% off.
Exactly. It's all the feds listening. You guys have prebes too.
Right. You need to have nice balls.
If you're gonna,
you don't want to get your pubes hot.
You know what a Ray Asher's apartment with unshaven scrotum?
No, come on, not at all.
No,
not at all.
You're gonna leave with enough cat hair already. Just kind of
Right. You don't need to add to it. Yeah, no, I agree. This is something that, it's a fear. It's a real fear. I had this fear pop up like immediately in my life as an investigator,
Yeah.
It was something that I was really jarred by. I was really like, fuck, man, maybe I should not be doing this. And I don't really think about it as much now just because I've never had like Men in Black show up at my door and I've never been raided. Knock on wood. Don't fucking swat me, people, please.
Well, I think it goes back to what I was talking about earlier with Graham Hancock too. Even though we are all kind of like on the fringe here talking about cryptids and conspiracy theories and all this stuff, there is still, even within this subculture, there's still this concept of popularly held opinions and beliefs, right? Like you even if you're going to talk about cryptids, there's still the ones that are universally accepted, and there's ones that are still. It's hard to have like the fringe of the fringe beliefs, right? So if you're going to talk about, if you're going to do a show talking about Skinwalker Ranch and Area 51, no, you're probably not going to get doxxed, because that's stuff that everyone talks about everywhere. Not everybody everywhere, but
Right.
within this community, within this subculture, this is fairly common known info. I think it's when you really get into some of the deeper, more esoteric stuff that you can really piss off the nerds within the nerds within the nerds, right? And that's kind of like with the Graham Hancock stuff, where I feel like he pushes it just a little bit too much, and that's when you start to feel the backlash. And that might have been what this guy's doing. Talking about Area 51 in and of itself shouldn't really be that big of a thing, because I mean it's kind of in pop culture consciousness already. There's a fucking video game called Area 51.
Yeah,
You
but
know,
nobody's like detailing.
that's what I mean. So there's something there that he did
Yeah.
that triggered it, and I think
Or it could have just been some fucking jack off on the internet that called the FBI and was like, "Oh, this guy's got kitty porn," and that's why they fucking raided him. You know, who knows? Right now, we can't say that it's directly related to this website. We have no idea. You know, it could have been somebody calling in and go, "Oh, this guy's got 20 pounds of cocaine. You got to go rate." You know, who knows? We don't know. You know, and it could be just that. And then that guy uses the fucking raid, the FBI raid, to be like, "Oh yeah, I got raided by the FBI because of my Area 51 website. You should check it out." Because guess who's all over his website right now? Everybody.
yeah, I
You
hear what
know,
you're saying. Yeah, it's a
you,
good self promotion technique. But you would think
who
before the
knows?
FBI would mobilize, I mean, because you need a warrant signed by a judge, right? I think. I'm not trying to play
Oh
legal
yeah,
expert
you
here,
do.
but I've seen an episode SVU or two in my day.
Yeah, you need a warrant, but it's not warrants aren't probable cause. I mean, you know, depending on what the claim is.
Right, right.
You know, we just there's not enough for us to go up right now to know um
I'll
what
keep
what it
I'll
is. But
keep my eye on that one though. That's
yeah,
interesting.
it's interest. It's of interest, and you know, I think people should check it out and definitely check out dreamlandresort.com. It is a neat website, especially if you're really into Area 51 shit. You know, so that was really all I had for this week. Pato.
There were some elections.
Oh,
Twitter stuff is still going on.
Twitter stuff is still going on.
Oh, you
Election.
got verified! Congratulations.
I did. I got 100% verified all by myself.
You and Jeremiah Byron. They finally.
It's because I'm a notable person.
You are.
It's not because I paid $7.99 a month to get verified.
It's all
It's strictly
good.
because I am notable. No,
But
I did.
has it helped your engagement and stuff?
So I have been curious about that. So okay.
Yeah.
Before people get mad at me, because there's like a whole movement right now that people are like block people that buy the fucking Twitter Blue.
Oh, fuck you.
Right. Listen. Okay. Listen. I have been begging for an edit button on Twitter since Twitter was invented. I think everybody else has too. $8 a month for that shit is worth it. I'm just gonna tell you that right now. That shit is fucking worth it. You know, as far as like my engagement and stuff goes, I have been trying to post more and I've been trying to like watch, and I went back and I like screenshotted a bunch of shit that I'd posted prior to this to look at the engagements, and I've been trying to compare it. I don't think it has really done anything to boost the engagements personally.
Hmm.
But I'm gonna keep watching it and see what happens. There's like other shit that I really haven't had time to like play around with it. I mean, but there's a bunch of stuff. It's not just the check mark that you get. You get a bunch of things. And I want to see. I mean, gosh, if it is gonna, I mean, it's no different. If it's gonna boost my engagement, it's no different than me paying $8 a month for marketing, for ad space somewhere, which isn't what I'm a bad guy for doing that. Fuck you. Because I want to do well. I don't know.
No, I don't think so at all.
I don't support Elon Musk. I hate that fucking guy. Everybody knows that. I don't support what he has done with taking over Twitter and firing everybody. I wanted to see how easy it was to get that blue check mark, and it is horrifyingly easy. I needed nothing. I just bought it, and that was it. And that it really shouldn't be that easy. And even now that I have it, it shouldn't be that easy.
You know what? I don't necessarily agree with that because I think, the whole reason of the verified thing, and maybe I said this last week or I don't know, whatever, but um, was just to verify that someone is who they say they are. And yeah, you can change your name to say something stupid, but then you're going to get blocked and then your account gets deactivated. So fuck you. And like all those people that are changing their profile name, they're getting verified and then they're changing their name to say something else. Like, okay, like that's short-lived. Like you got to screenshot yourself pretending you're Jesse the Body Ventura saying that fucking goats smell like cactuses or whatever. I don't know, but like, I mean, the whole it's not going to work. It's not
But
going to
it
work
has
long term.
caused real life companies to lose money and shit.
What do you mean?
Did you not see? There's that one company. I don't remember some medical company that sells insulin. Okay, so somebody went and made a verified account, pretended to be that company, and said insulin was now going to be free. Well, when people found out that insulin was in fact not going to be free, it tanked their stocks completely.
I don't know.
Look into it. People that
That
listen to
sounds
the
like
show to listen to
stupid
us talk
people
about
doing
Twitter.
stupid shit. Like, I don't know.
But you shouldn't be allowed to just make a Twitter account and pretend to be somebody else. I agree with that. That's the whole point of Twitter verification. And these accounts aren't getting blocked. That's the problem. They're not getting suspended. They're not getting blocked. There's no repercussions for it. But since then, they have removed so you can't subscribe to Twitter Blue anymore. So the people that did, good for us. The people that did not, oh well.
Yeah, we'll see what happens next.
Also, it was only available for iPhone users.
Oh, that's weird.
Yeah, that's weird. So, but that's another people are saying that, well, Elon Musk clearly then is just, taking another dig at poor people because typically poor people don't have an iPhone. I'm a poor people and I have an iPhone. So what's your excuse?
And I know people that are not poor and use Android because
Right.
they're computer programmers or something. I don't know.
Right. This is really nice. Actually, I might switch back to Android because I kind of like what they've been doing over there. Anyway, again, people don't listen to the show for Twitter talk, but that is something to take note. I am now Twitter verified. I'm important. You are all peasants to me. So I need nothing else.
You were always important to me.
Oh, thank you. You've always been a peasant to me. I'm just kidding.
I'm well aware of that. I'm well aware of that.
Oh, I love you, Pato. The show wouldn't be the show without you. So
it's only until I use that Manscaped ball shaver to fucking shave my nuts.
You're a peasant. Yeah, exactly.
Yes.
Yeah, you got it. You got to shave your nuts. Sorry. Throw on some ball deodorant, get to work. Anyway, all right. Anything else you wanted to mention before we jump into this topic here?
No, I got none.
Ooh, Pat. Oh, this is a doozy.
Yeah.
This is something else. So, I already know what I titled the episode, and there's a good reason for it. You've heard of Ted Bundy, right? You know Ted Bundy?
Sure.
Gacy. We did an episode on him. Dahmer. Right. Dahmer's a big one. We would just talked a bunch about him lately.
Mm-hmm.
Of all the people that we've covered, of all the true crime cases that I've read, this is one of the top most horrific serial killers I've ever heard of in my entire life. Like, yeah, this guy, he is fucking sick. So, full disclosure, I'm gonna get into some of the details here. We're going to talk about some really fucked up things involving really fucked up torture. If you don't want to listen to this episode, I don't blame you. But
yeah, this is a dark one, and it's going to go where you think it's going to go, and it's going to be what you think it's going to be. So use your better judgment. But have you ever gotten complaints from people after we've done these like serial killer episodes?
Our serial killer episodes, our true crime episodes, are the best performing episodes we've ever done.
Awesome.
So you guys are freaks, and I love it, and I'm here for it. So if you're here for the nitty gritty dirty details, I'm going to give them to you. I am also going to, just because listen, I'm a bad bitch. Okay. I watch people die on the internet all the time. For fun or something. Something's wrong with me. Right. messes with me a little bit. So what I have done, in between describing some of the things that have happened, I have included some wholesome, cute, fun facts, just like as a palate cleanser. Okay, I have, I have, and so there will be some of those in this episode. We probably will crack jokes. Just because people deal with things differently, and I happen to deal with the horrors of life with humor. So that's me. So again, if this is not for you, I highly suggest you just tune in next week. We'll see you next Wednesday. Go to manscaped.com, use code stay weird for 20% off and free shipping.
There you go.
Anyway, Robert Berdella. Pato, you'd never heard of this guy, huh?
No, this was a new one for me.
A lot of people haven't, which is very unfortunate, which is why I really wanted to cover it, considering what we're about to dive into. So Robert Berdella, he, of course, is an Ohio native. Of course.
Of course.
Ultimately, he ended up in Kansas City, but yes, he was born and raised in Ohio. He was a weird kid. He wasn't very athletic. He's kind of nerdy. He had the big old thick glasses that he wore, and was kind of quiet. And then he also had like some medical issues, and so other kids didn't really talk to him much. He was actually on blood pressure medication from a very young age because of his medical issues. But that didn't really last long, to be honest with you. As he started kind of getting older and progressing like more into puberty, he started doing better socially. He started becoming really cultured. He was really fun to be around. A lot of people were interested in a lot of things he had to say. Eventually, he got into college and he ended up going for, I believe it was art. And, he did a lot of great stuff, but he also did some really fucking weird stuff. Ultimately, he was kicked out of college because I believe it was directly related to the fact that he killed and ate a duck as a type of exhibit that he did, which was weird, and they all thought that was weird. But whatever, artists are weird and they do weird shit. So far, there's no red flags for me personally for this guy. He did have not so great parents, just an emotionally unavailable mother, a dad that was verbally and physically abusive, but nothing over the top. I mean, gosh, this was probably the 60s, 70s.
He was sexually assaulted in high school.
Was he?
Yeah. It was right after his dad left. He was working at a restaurant, which is interesting because that was something that he would do kind of periodically throughout his life is work in the food service industry. And he was sexually assaulted by a coworker who was an older man.
Oh, I must have overlooked that.
You know what? It was interesting because I didn't see it on the Wikipedia page, but I kept digging around and I found it referenced finally somewhere else because I saw it mentioned somewhere, and then I went read more, and yeah, it's there. So
wow, well that's good. That's of note.
Yeah,
that is interesting. Yeah, because I did not see. That's okay. There's not a lot about this guy out there.
There's not really. Yeah.
It's crazy how swept under the rug this entire case was.
I think it's because of the body count. It's not like he definitely gets points for your creativity. He's definitely one of the most horrific serial killers that we've had on the show. But at the end of the day, he doesn't have the numbers that the other guys have. Not to look at it so clinically, you know what I mean?
Right. But, he wasn't active for very long. I mean, he only had like about a 2-year stunt.
Yeah.
And then that was that. Which we'll get into. So he, again, was very eccentric in college. His dad died at a kind of a young age. I believe he was a teenager when his dad died. Maybe that contributed to some of his issues. He did eventually, in college is when he started experimenting with drugs. Hey, who didn't? He got really bad into kind of the drug lifestyle. But then he kind of, I would say that he became more of a functioning addict. I'd say he didn't ever really stop doing drugs, but he took on this like crusade to become somebody that would help other people overcome drug addiction and like the street life.
Sure.
Like that was definitely his thing. And he would just kind of, take in stray people and help them out. He started multiple organizations, participated in multiple fundraisers. He was the neighborhood watch person. He ended up becoming kind of an outstanding citizen, albeit a little strange, but, more strange, again, in a very eccentric way, but not a bad guy. well, initially, he started kind of collecting. Like Pato said, he was a chef forever. I mean, he worked in the food industry a lot. And then eventually he started kind of collecting all these weird antiques, and then opened up his own shop in the flea market called Bob's Bizarre Bazaar, and sold some of these weird things. Now, nobody ever really cataloged what kind of things he sold, but from what I understand of the shop, it seemed to be like an oddities and curiosities type of shop.
Hmm.
That makes sense to me, um, just because of some of the rumors that had flown around later on. He was into things like the esoteric and the occult and magic and cryptids. I mean, he was sadly enough, I would have hung out with this dude. I hate to admit that, but I know he was doing this shit to people. So that's, I mean, the gist. I mean, am I missing anything pre-murders here, Pato, or should we just fucking get into it?
Well, he was big surprise gay.
Oh yeah, that's important.
another in the long list of Midwestern gay serial
And he
killers.
was out. He was open and out.
Yes, he was, but it wasn't as repressed as some of the other people. Probably because it was a little bit later on, and he did kind of get independence a little bit earlier. Dahmer, remember, lived with his grandmother, well into when he started killing people, and that was kind of, so he was still in the closet. This guy, same thing with Gacy. Gacy was closeted for a very, very long time. Still got married twice. Tried to have relationships with women, but like you said, this guy was a figurehead in the community. Was involved in a lot of charity organizations, kind of like Gacy was as well. But what's interesting is when you talk about all of the people that he tried to help get off the street, who were those people predominantly? Like twink male prostitutes,
Yeah,
meth addicts or whatever. Like that was kind of who he was helping, was
right.
young gay boys that he would then do whatever with. So that kind of is a part of this too, and you have to wonder how much of that, going back to the sexual assault in high school, how much of that framed the rest of his life. I mean, because here's the thing. I mean, I don't. It gets kind of fucking heavy talking about this shit, but like, was he gay before he was sexually assaulted? Did that? How much of an impact did that have on him? When so much of what this guy would go on to do later on in life revolves around sex and violence, how does an act of sexual violence in his formative years end up defining him? Was it something that did this coworker of his, and once again, like the sexual assault thing, like I found it online, but it's not, it's a part of his story, but it's not a predominant part of his story, even though it does kind of help establish an MO. Is that kind of what led him towards this? Was he maybe always kind of a little gay, and this coworker saw that in him and picked up on it and tried to exploit it? Like, what is it? Is I don't know. It's this whole case like reeks of sexual violence, and especially towards men. I mean, that's what it is. It's
Yeah. He's definitely a deviant, a sexual deviant, psychologically, and definitely has some type of a personality disorder for sure. Something, within him was able to disconnect from these people that he killed and not view them as people, and more so objects. And then, with what we'll get into the details here, he was definitely about pushing limits. And so, I mean, where did that start? I don't know. I can't. Some, with people like this, I just think that there's a perfect cocktail mix that makes it, it's fucking lightning in a bottle. It doesn't happen all the time, obviously, because people are sexually assaulted all the time and don't go on to torture other people and kill them. But I don't know. There are some very interesting points throughout some of these cases that we'll kind of touch on, because I agree. I think that there is a lot of stuff that we just simply don't know about that could be hidden.
Mm-hmm.
Um, which we'll get into. He did mention, like, he did blame watching The Collector on his crimes, which is weird.
Right, blaming media.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of, I mean, obviously he had a lot of anger and
Have you ever watched The Collector?
no.
Me neither. Maybe we should. I don't know.
I'm
You know.
afraid to now. Shit.
Yeah. Right.
I might start killing people. Just pop off.
I mean, it must be that good. I don't know. Yeah. The Collector. I've never seen it. But yeah, maybe I should. Fuck, I don't know. Yeah, there. That is interesting about the sexual assault. I really didn't know that. That's good to know. But some of the stuff definitely screams. It's very similar to Dahmer.
Yeah.
And we'll kind of get into why. But anyway,
Dahmer and Gacy. But yeah. I mean, I guess, yeah. When you go through the timeline, that first victim, that's like a Gacy fucking situation right there. You know what I mean?
Yeah, he like starts off as Gacy and then gets more Dahmer.
Yeah.
Later on, I guess. Anyway, yeah. So the first case that he had here was actually a young man named Jerry Howell. Jerry, he knew Jerry because Jerry's father actually owned the booth like right across from Bob. Paul, his father, Paul. And Jerry was set to go to some competition or something, and Bob was supposed to drive him. And instead of driving him to the competition, he drugged the absolute ever-living shit out of him, drugged him and tranquilized him, and tied him to the bed in one of his bedrooms at his house. And he kept him there for about 28 hours, which isn't terrible considering some of the other people we're going to talk about, but it's not great either.
Yeah.
He repeatedly tortured and raped and pumped full of drugs, and over the entire course of this 28 hour period, he pretty much had a sex doll is basically what he saw this thing as. Eventually Jerry, he's not entirely sure what happened. Nobody really knows exactly what happened, but he died, and he said that he thinks that it was probably a mix of the drugs and being gagged, not being able to breathe, that probably killed him. But he eventually died after 28 hours. And then he took his body down in the basement, hung it upside down, let it bleed out, and before he let it bleed out, and then he chopped it up and threw him in the trash.
Right. So he just kind of skipping ahead a little bit. He does this with all of his victims. And the reason that we know what we know about what he did with his victims is because he didn't keep necessarily he didn't bury them in the crawl space, right? Like Gacy did, or keep their heads or body parts kind of like Dahmer did. But what he did do was keep a very detailed journal
Yes.
of everything he did to these people.
Yeah.
So even though he was very skillful in disposing of the bodies, he kept kind of trophies of his own and pictures and written accounts that would later obviously be his undoing.
Yeah. And that is what is most notable about this case are these notes that it was like a journal, and he would put down what time it was, and he would put down, he kind of had a code, but it was really primitive. It wasn't, it wasn't like it was a secret cipher anybody had to determine. It was like he'd write RP for rape. Mm-hmm. Right. I mean, it was really just shorthand for what it was he was doing. Mm-hmm. But he put down the exact date, the exact time, and then keep the log. And then he would also put the exact date and time for when these people died. But he would like say weird shit. He wouldn't just be like, oh, they died. He would be like, what would he say? Terminate experiment or some weird shit, and it was odd. Very disconnected, very disassociated, but he would like also catalog like how they were reacting and, things like that. Like he would put down if they were, breathing weird, or they couldn't breathe at all, or they were snoring, or just different things. Again, very detailed, which was probably, yeah, ultimately his big undoing here. Um, before I get into more, because if you think that's bad, it's just going to get 10 times worse. Did you know that the voices of Mickey and Minnie Mouse eventually got married?
That's so sweet.
That's cute, right? They did. They met each other. The voice of Mickey Mouse was just like some fuck off janitor or some shit at Disney Studios, and went on to be fucking Mickey Mouse. And he met her passing down the hallway one day, and they were both coming out of really bad marriages. And they got together, and they had lived the rest of their life together.
That's so sweet.
I told you, I did it right with all this. So, okay, victim number 2. This is the good thing about somebody like Robert Berdella, is that because he had such a low victim count, I am going to go through all of them and tell you about all of them. And I think it's important too, for something like this. So, victim number 2. Almost a year later, in April of 1985, he met a man, Robert Sheldon, and this is something to note, and I'm not going to go into the details of their relationship so much, but all of his victims, except for one, were people that he knew personally and had known for many years.
Right. So that's what's kind of interesting, is that I think pretty much all of them were people that were young men that were living on the street, that were trying to get sober or just looking for a place to crash, and came to him because he seemed to have was known as somebody that you could go to.
He was like the neighborhood dad.
But for gay methed up twinks.
Yeah.
Like, yeah.
Yeah.
So you have to, and he was, and this is something that you mentioned earlier, but I think we need to kind of like reiterate it, because at this point it's like the early 80s, correct? Like, yeah, that's when he was active. Yeah. So like he was out, and yeah, it was in Kansas City, which is still Midwestern America, but he was out, and he had a relationship with a Vietnam vet for a while. Like he had a out relationship with another adult gay man. So he was kind of and Kansas City ain't that big of a city. So gay communities like that are very closely knit. Like when we talk about the Dahmer thing, right? About in Dahmer's case, it was kind of interesting how he was able to operate as long as he was in the city of the size of Milwaukee without anyone going to the cops. In this guy's case, it's kind of the exact opposite. Like, he didn't operate that long. And there's so many similarities between him and Dahmer.
There are,
but
yeah.
But this guy was kind of like, had the whole Gacy thing going too, where he was a pillar of the community, and everyone kind of knew him, and he was seen as a very positive influence, and especially within the gay community. So there was a reason that all these twinks knew to go to his house. And when I was reading the facts about this case, and you see how time after time every one of these victims is some kid that needed a place to stay, you got to wonder under what context they originally met this guy, because that's not really discussed. Was he just the HNIC down at the gay bar in town, and everyone kind of knew him, or like?
Well, it is kind of discussed, but I'm saving that for the kind of the end.
Okay, all right.
And so
we'll get there. We'll get
there.
We're
not there. We're not there yet, Pato.
All right.
Get your.
I'm edging myself here. I'm so excited to get to this.
Oh yeah, I know you. This is the sexiest episode we've ever done. Anyway, April 1985, he Robert Sheldon shows up, which he knows, and is like, "Hey, I need a place to crash," and he's like, "Cool, you can crash here." They all seem to like do something to piss him off, and it's not like anything that's like terrible. Like, Robert Sheldon came and stayed at his house. He was paying his bills and doing what he was supposed to do, but Robert got like super drunk one night, and this like angered him. He was like mad that he was drunk. I don't know. And he just decided that he was going to go ahead and hold him captive. So what does he do? He drugs him up again with a bunch of whatever, multiple things. But things definitely were a little bit different than they were in the Jerry case. This time, it seems Robert was doing a lot worse things, and it seems like every time he killed somebody new, it just got worse and worse and worse.
Mhm.
And so this time, Robert, some of the things he did, or some of the things that Robert did to Robert, was swab drain cleaner in his eyes.
Right.
Inserted nails under his fingertips.
Mm-hmm.
Bound his wrist with piano wire to purposefully damage the nerve endings there. Filled his ears with caulk.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, and then of course, it's kind of like you just kind of just got to continue to add. Also raped repeatedly, constantly, all the time. At
Right.
least twice a day, he was raping these victims, at least. And, so it definitely ramped up. He had Robert Sheldon captive for 3 days before eventually he killed him, because this is where things kind of take a turn. Robert didn't mean to kill Jerry. Okay, Jerry died because he probably overdosed on drugs, probably the shock and the drugs, right?
Uh,
Um, but Robert Sheldon, he purposefully killed because a roofer came to work on the house. So we had to get rid of the guy. So he suffocated him to death.
yeah.
And while he then cut up the body and got rid of most of the remains via the trash again, this guy's just fucking throwing the trash out. The garbage men are picking it up, none the wiser. He did keep his head.
Oh, I didn't see that.
He did. He kept Robert Sheldon's head. And so that is something to note. But yeah, he purposefully killed him, which is not his MO. He did kill these people, but it's not because that was the end goal, So
Usually it's just through his like savage treatment that they die.
right,
But
exactly.
you could wonder, was he exploring the limits of how much they could endure?
Exactly. Yes.
You know.
And that it kind of seems to be the case. With this, I mean, rubbing fucking drain cleaner in someone's eyes is awful. Sticking fucking nails under your fingertips, that's terrible. It's not good. Not good. So anyway, on to the next one. But before we do that, your dog your dog is more likely to be dreaming about you. You're the owner. Dogs typically have dreams about the owner. Meanwhile, cats usually dream about hunting prey. But
how do we know this?
But it's because of the brain activity. Because they do the same shit that they do when they're thinking about us or when they're hunting prey. But cats will bring you prey. If you have a cat that brings you like mice and shit, it's because the cat is concerned about you and thinks that you are going hungry and can't hunt for yourself. So it's bringing you food to help you survive. That's sweet. That's sweet of our animals to think of us.
My dog does that. My good dog, Tucker. He'll hunt bunnies, and whenever he catches one, he'll bring it to the house.
He's all proud. He's like, "Oh, I got a bunny."
I know.
Meanwhile, the kids are fucking devastated. And
wow, the first time he did it in front of the nanny, she lost her shit, and I was like, "No, it's all good, dude. Thank you, I appreciate it."
That's terrible.
I encourage it. I'm like,
no, Pat.
Well, nothing against bunnies, but like it's his instinct. Like I can appreciate that.
I can appreciate that. When Jeremiah Byron did his first interview with Seth Breedlove, like in the middle of it, Seth's like, "Hey, hold on a second, there's a dead rabbit in my yard." It's like, pause the interview. And Jeremiah just keeps it all in. I thought it was great.
And Jeremiah just laughed it off, kept going through everyone's text messages. Just booted up Carnivore.
He's like, no big deal. I'll be right here when you're done.
Just going through your text records. Don't mind me.
It was a good aside from Jeremiah's solo interview of himself, which is my number one favorite Bigfoot Society podcast episode, that the first Seth Breedlove interview is my second favorite because of that fiasco.
My favorite was the Daniel Thorndike episode. I think that was...
it wasn't the one with me in it? I see how it is.
Oh, I didn't know you did one on there?
Yeah, sure did.
How long ago was that?
I don't know. A long time ago.
I'll go listen to it. Anyway.
Yeah, I was on Bigfoot Society. Talking about all kinds of shit. Anyway, yeah. So, So Robert Sheldon died, and Robert killed him. And there's that. So in June of 1985, he has another gentleman fall into his possession, Mark Wallace, which again is somebody that he knew. And, Mark, he wasn't this I mean, this wasn't really planned. This was just kind of a happy accident that fell into his lap. Mark was hiding out at a shed one day to get away from a thunderstorm, and, Robert Berdella invites him in, and he's
Which is
like,
such a weird, like, I almost doubted that story.
"What do you mean?"
Like, this guy's just got a shed that little gay boys hide in? Like, what? Like, I
Yeah.
got a shed in my backyard. I ain't never seen no twinks back there.
Okay.
You know what I mean? Like, what kind of bait do you leave out? Like,
How do you get twinks in your fucking
ring
shed?
pops and share CDs? Like, and they just fucking show up? Like,
Yeah, probably.
how does that work? What kind of... So yes, it's just the law of attraction. I don't know. It's so weird. But yeah, I remember seeing that storyline or
Yeah.
that and being like, what the fuck? Like,
He's just hanging out in the shed. trying to get
yeah,
away
he
from the
just goes
thunderstorm.
out there and there's a little shivering wet gay. Like,
I mean, yeah, because again, he's like the daddy to all these prostituted. I guess I can't say twinks. I'm not allowed. But all these prostituted men.
is that a bad word? Should I not be saying that?
I don't think you should say it now, unless
Okay.
you are a twink yourself. I think it's.
No, I'm an otter.
Okay, well,
I've been
then
told I'm an otter or a bear. I
you
don't know if I'm...
you got to stop using twink.
Okay, I'm sorry.
Pato apologizes. Don't cancel him. But he doesn't apologize for talking about his genitals, or white people. Fuck whitey.
What if they're cracker twinks?
You call them crackers, can't call them twinks.
Okay.
I think you can call them Twinkies, because isn't that a derogatory white term?
I'm not taking this bit a step further. I don't like where this is going, where suddenly I can't say twink. Fuck you. I shot gay porn.
I'm not
goddamn it.
Pat, you can
Check
say
my
what-
credentials. Check my
Listen.
credentials. All right.
You can say
First
whatever
assistant
you want to
director of
say.
Line 'em Up. All right. Call me on the carpet, motherfuckers.
You can say whatever you want to say. What you do is your business. However, I have absolutely no business saying twink. I'm not allowed. So that's me.
All right, fine.
Right.
All right.
So anyway, so he takes Mark Wallace inside, and he's like, "Hey man, I got some drugs. You want to take them?" And he's like, "Hell yeah, brother!" And
already, I'm on board. See, I'm right there with them. Okay, and then what happens?
Right, they do drugs. Right, he's like, "Come on in, let's do some drugs. We'll get high." And he's like, "All right." So then Robert Berdella gives him too much drugs on purpose, right, to incapacitate him, and then it gets bad from there. So Robert steps it up. I couldn't figure out how long Mark lived for. It doesn't seem like he only lived for a couple hours, I believe. He takes these alligator clips that he's hooked up to a transformer.
Yeah.
And hooks them up to Mark Wallace's nipples and starts giving him electrical shocks. And while he's doing this, he's also injecting things into Mark's he's not like, I don't think he's actually injecting anything into him, but he's definitely poking him with needles, which is something that he does a lot. It's not necessarily inject with needles, but just poke the needles in somewhere. And he's like putting them in his neck muscles. And then suddenly Mark, starts going into shock, and he died. So, and that, again, I think that he only lived for a couple of hours. Could it have been the electricity that killed him? I don't know. Could he have overdosed on drugs? I don't know. Because guess what he did? He dismembered his body and then put him in the trash. And Mark Wallace was never seen again. So, that is, that's that. So then we go on to, I don't have a fact yet. I'll get there. We go on to James Ferris. James Ferris is where Berdella really started ramping up his brutality with these tortures. James did not last for very long. He lasted for 27 hours. And, subjected James to, of course, rape and drugging and, all kinds of stuff. He also, the electric shocks continued to be more and more intense. He was experimenting with putting these, doing these electric shocks on the shoulders, on the testicles, for up to 5 minutes at a time, just continuously doing that. He was taking the needles, and again, acupuncture style, he was just sticking them in various places, in the neck and the genitals. And then Ferris wasn't doing well, and he didn't stop. He just continued. And I mean, eventually tortured him to death within a 27-hour period, tortured him to death with rape and electricity and, other things. So, and then, can you guess what happened next?
No.
He chopped up his body and threw him in the trash again.
Oh, that's where you're going with that. Okay.
that's what happened next. So that was James Ferris. Didn't last very long. All right, we're halfway there, guys. We're halfway through these murders. The last three are definitely where it ramps up. So before I do that, in Switzerland, it's illegal to own a social animal by itself. You have to have two of them. You have to, or you will be charged with animal abuse and animal cruelty and never be allowed to own another animal again.
Yeah, I feel better about having two dogs, even though it's twice the headache sometimes. At least they got each other.
Right, exactly. Like
You know?
I think it's important. At least get two. Might as well. You already got one. Just fucking get another one. It's not a big deal. It's like having kids. Fucking, you have one. Might as well have another one.
Yeah, when's your second one coming? When's that happening?
Never.
Right?
I'm almost done with mine, so it's too late now.
Why would you start over again? I don't know.
Point of no return, right? But I do have two cats, so
Right. We'll be grandparents soon enough. It'll be all good.
exactly. Yeah, right. Exactly. That's true. So there you go. But if you have a bunny, you have to have two bunnies. If you have a guinea pig, you gotta have two. So
Sure.
Switzerland. Don't be breaking the law in Switzerland. All right, here we go. All right, Todd Stoops.
Oh, this is the one.
This one get you? This is the
me.
one. I know why it's the one. We're going to talk about that. Todd Stoops, same as before. Same issues as before, right? The drugging the guy and then doing needles under the fingernails. He, instead of putting the drain cleaner, rubbing it in his eyes this time, he injects the drain cleaner into his larynx to try to stop him from screaming so much. And then he, instead of, the eye thing, he electrocutes his eyes. He puts the electric shocks on his eyeballs.
Mm-hmm.
And then of course repeated rape constantly.
This guy lasted 2 weeks.
This guy lived for 2 weeks with this. Every, almost every single day. This one is really tough. And what's fucked up is that there's things about it that we know that Todd Stoops was coherent during pretty much all of this that was happening. Because he would talk to Berdella. At one point in time, he asked him for a sandwich, and Berdella didn't give it to him, and he cried about it. And that's what broke the man, was not getting a sandwich. And when you see his body, okay, because Berdella, that's another thing. He had over 300 photographs in his house, and the police at first, he was in such bad shape at the end of that 2 weeks that they did not understand that he was the same person in his before and after picture. They just didn't get it. It was so bad. But the demise of Todd, I mean, he would get electrocuted so bad that Berdella thought for sure he was going to die, and he would write it oh, he's not going to make it, and then come back and he'd still be alive. So Berdella decided to get creative, and he decided to fist him and ruptured his anal wall. And there was so much blood everywhere that Berdella thought for sure this is it. And he still didn't die. He still didn't die. What they think eventually happened, it was because of the anal wall rupture that he died, but it was because he got sepsis. He got infected,
Hmm.
and Berdella was trying to treat it with antibiotics, but to no avail, and eventually
Oh,
he did die.
yeah.
Yeah, can you imagine?
No, I don't want
No,
to.
no, not even. Um, yeah, that's a tough one. That is a hard one. That is probably I don't know if it's the worst. These are all pretty fucking terrible, to be honest. Nobody wants to die this way. But yeah, then he dismembered his body, put him in the trash. just like he had done up until this point. So you need a palate cleanser for that one?
Sure.
I got one for you. A 100-year-old tortoise named Diego saved his species single-handedly by himself by fathering 800 babies. 800 offspring, Diego did. Now, do you know what Diego's key to creating those 800 babies was? Pato?
No.
It was, of course, it was keeping his balls nice and shaved using Manscaped's Manscaper.
20% off and free shipping using promo code Stay Weird. Stay
But no,
weird.
that's true. That did actually happen. The tortoise saved his entire species. He's the last remaining male, and man, he did the damn thing. He was like, "I got one mission to save the world. I'm gonna make 800 babies," and he did.
Let's move on to the final victim, or
the final actual murder victim.
Right, exactly.
Yeah. Larry Wayne Pearson. This guy was an interesting case because he lasted for 6 weeks. 6 weeks with Berdella. Of course, the typical electric shock therapy, drugging, the raping. He also got the drain cleaner in his larynx. He also had his hands broken really badly, which I don't know if that's an MO that Berdella did. I know that the piano wire had been like typical, and then he eventually switched to rope, and we know that with the last person that we'll get to. But yeah, he had his hands broken so that he'd make it harder to get free. But Larry had kind of a different relationship with Robert. They had actually kind of built some trust there. And, he was kind of not treating Larry as badly as some of the other victims. He would bring him cigarettes. They would watch movies together. He would kind of give him a bit more freedom. But eventually that came to an end. Larry was kind of trying to keep himself in the game a little bit. And he was a lot more compliant. And what happened one of these times is that, he was giving him a blowy, right? Larry was giving Robert a blowy.
Mm-hmm.
And bit this motherfucker's dick. I mean, bit the ever-loving shit out of his penis. So badly that Berdella had to go to the hospital and have it treated. So, because he bit his dick, he killed him. Berdella killed him. He ended up, beating him to death and then suffocating him. But, then Berdella goes and drives himself to the hospital.
Sure. Oh my God.
And gets his dick treated.
Oh.
And told them who bit his dick. He told them. He gave Larry's name. And they're like, okay, well, that's terrible. Do you want to press charges? No, I don't want to press charges. Okay. Well, you're going to have to stay here at the hospital for a couple of weeks. Your injury's bad. I mean, it was a really bad injury. So he was like, I can't do that. I have to go home and I have to make sure that I got dogs. I got to make sure they're taken care of. I got, make sure my house is fine. And they're like, okay, go do that and come back. So he doesn't. The reason why he doesn't stay is because he's got the body of Larry there at his house. He wanted to get rid of the body first, and he did. He took like a week. He was so physically weak from his injury. It took him like a week to finally dispose of Larry's body, and then he went back to the hospital and stayed there for a little bit. That's crazy. Now, Larry, here's something to note about Larry. Guess what he did to Larry? He kept his head also. So notice that the only two people's body parts he kept were people that he purposefully killed. The other guys he didn't kill on purpose. Really. He beat the shit out of Larry and then killed the other guy. So yeah, he kept both of their heads. So that is interesting. He doesn't know why he did it. He doesn't really have a reason for it. He doesn't know why he kept them. So there's that. Okay. All right. So I'm going to give you one more palate cleanser, and then we're going to start kind of on the upswing and this guy getting some just desserts a little bit. Humpback whales. Humpback whales protect other animals from killer whales for no reason, really. We don't really know why they do that. They're just not having that shit in their ocean. They're like, you get the fuck out of here.
They're more civilized than we are.
Right. They have no rhyme or reason. It doesn't offer them any solace or anything. Killer whales don't go after them, but they are not having that shit. If they see killer whales in the area, they will huddle around the other fish and help them because that's the only thing that will keep them away is those humpback whales. They got huge dicks too.
Okay. Jesus. You know why it looks so big though?
I know. Go ahead, Pato. Tell us.
Because they use Manscaped.
That's why.
They fucking keep their shit, keep that fade high and tight.
I have to send this episode to them when we're done as like proof that we talked.
No, let's not do that.
I have to. That's part of the deal.
We have to send them episodes?
Yeah.
Oh, we're going to lose the fucking...
No, we're not.
Did we use any of the talking points from the email?
No, but we don't have to.
All right.
It's not necessary.
All right.
As long as people buy the shit.
All right.
And they wanted us to be us and talk about it. So we have been.
Yeah.
Okay. So how was this guy eventually caught? Well, I'll tell you, he done fucked up when he met Christopher Bryson. He just done fucked up. What was interesting about the Christopher case, and kind of the transition that we got here, as you can see with Berdella, his victims lasted longer and longer. Okay. I don't think he was looking for to kill people. I think he was very much in the same way that Dahmer said he was wanting to create like sex slaves. I think that's what Berdella wanted as well.
Yeah, that's exactly what he wanted.
Yeah. And so his goal wasn't to kill, it was just to incapacitate, and then you'd be able to freely torture without death happening. But the theme so far has been that he's known all of these people. He didn't know Christopher Bryson at all. And even though he did get him into his home, initially, it wasn't the same deal where he just kind of drugged these people, unknowingly. Sometimes he crushed shit up in a drink. Sometimes it was through an injection, whatever. He just straight up hit this dude over the head with an iron bar. And then injected him with shit. I mean, it was so different compared to what he had been doing. And kind of right off the rip, Christopher was already treated better. Now, that's not to say that he was treated good. He wasn't. He still had this time he had ammonia in his eyes and shit. And of course, rape and all that fun stuff. But he wasn't treated nearly as terrible as the past people, at least it seemed. He was kind of trying to like sweeten the guy a bit. He was like immediately giving this guy gifts, trying to spend quality time with him, things like that. So 4 days into Christopher being there, only 4 days into him being there, Robert done fucked up. And he had kind of gained trust with Christopher. Christopher had asked, instead of having his hands tied up behind him on the bedpost, if he could just tie them like in front of him together. And Robert actually agreed to this and said, yeah, that's fine. Possibly because Robert knew that up until this point, he had been a little too harsh with his victims. And again, didn't want this one to die. Maybe he wanted to keep him. But he did tie the hands out in front of him. Christopher had kind of played a little bit with seeing if he could get the ropes loosened. And he found out that he could. But he kind of bided his time a little bit. So on the fourth day, Robert Berdella went to work at Bob's Bizarre Bazaar. And he fucked up and left some matches in the bedroom that Christopher Bryson was in. So that motherfucker gets out of his hand ropes, right? And then he takes those matches and burns off the ropes on his feet. And he goes to climb out the second story window, except he fell, broke his foot on the way down. Okay. He's also got
Mm,
two broken hands because again, that was like kind of Berdella's thing.
mm.
And he goes and he finds a meter reader and he's naked aside from a dog collar that he's wearing and tells the meter reader, hey, this guy's been holding me captive. I need help. In which case they call the police. Of course, the police come and, this was kind of the end of the victims, but definitely not the end of the story and what happened, following. So Bryson saved, he goes and he gets medical help and he's still alive and well to this day, I assume. Um, so that's good. So during the investigation, some of the things that police found, of course, they found this, his notebooks of all these people. He kept different notebooks for different people, and then he, like I mentioned before, he had over 300 pictures of all these men. And what's interesting is that some of the people in the notebooks, because all the notebooks were labeled with their names, weren't any of the victims. Some of the people in the pictures weren't any of the victims. So there are still unidentified people involved in this case. Now, whether or not they are alive and well, still missing, we don't know. Berdella is persistent that he only killed 6 people. But some of the evidence might suggest otherwise. Now, again, because he disposed of all these bodies and all the people that were taken off to the landfill, they were never found. The only 2 people that were really found at all were, Sheldon and Pearson, because they had their heads. They were still able to charge him for the other murders because he confessed. He took a plea deal on the two murder cases and said, hey, if you throw out the death penalty, then I will confess to everything that I did and who I killed. And so they did that. Now, they did identify one of the people, and this was what I was talking about earlier. One of the people in the notebooks was Freddie Kellogg. And, Freddie came forward and said, yes, I've hung around Berdella. He's, drugged and raped people. He drugged and raped me a couple times. He's known for this. Everybody knows that he does this. And when those people went missing, because they all know each other, when the original people went missing, they all kind of pretty much knew that it was Berdella.
And why did no one go to the police?
Because Berdella, that's a good question. So he also let it be known that Berdella would throw these huge parties for people, and he would really get to know people in the community, and he would know like who, because there would be a lot of police informants and shit at these parties. And if they did show up as a police informant, he would blackmail them that they were at his gay party doing drugs.
Yeah, there's a lot of things. I tried to look and see if there was conspiracy theories about this guy, and I couldn't find any. Now, granted, I didn't do like that deep of a dive, I guess, but I mean, I looked for a good half hour, 20 minutes, and didn't find anything. I did find the sexual assault in high school, but that was it. When you look at the space in between these murders, it seems like a really long time. You know what I mean?
You think so? A couple months.
Sometimes it's like a year.
Yeah.
You know, and I wonder if was he really inactive? Now I could see the year between his final victim and the kid that got away because he had to let his dick heal. You know
Right.
what I mean? But other than that, I don't know. It just seems to me like
Yeah.
he should have been more active. And then once again, kind of harkening back to the Gacy vibe stuff, some people think that Gacy not only did an act alone, but may have been involved with a larger organization and just have been more of like a foot soldier, and he had the party house that people were using to
Right.
kill these young men. And it's just I don't know. There's something I think we're too much on the outside to really say this. And this is kind of the same thing that I said with the Dahmer episode too, where like I would if you are a Midwestern gay fellow that has an insight into the inner workings of these small town gay communities, and how they work and how stuff like this can kind of go unreported and why. Um, I'd love to have you on, but who knows? Maybe that's how you get your house raided. You don't talk about that kind of shit.
I mean, sex workers in general go missing and die and killed. I mean, they're huge targets for serial killers, whether they be male or female.
Yeah.
We just so happen to have only covered men. I don't know why in this case, but it does happen. Because they're just not. They're just they don't care. I mean, the police don't really care.
Well, they're operating off the radar anyway. That's their whole MO. You know what I mean? They're not trying to draw attention to who they're with and what they're doing. And when you kind of already are operating in the shadows like that, it is really easy to drop off and no one knows who you were last with
Yeah.
because your line of work requires anonymity.
They're kind of everywhere, right? And I mean, it's not like Bordello was never questioned for any of these murders prior. He was questioned with these missing people, like his very first murder. He was questioned in that case, but he just said, "I dropped him off, and I don't know what happened to him." And they're like, "Oh well," they didn't suspect the neighborhood watch guy. The guy that was trying to get people off the streets. Again, he was a pretty upstanding citizen,
but
all things considered.
It's just it seems like it's two different. Not that I'm saying that gay people haven't been kind of maligned by society in the past, but we're talking about Kansas City here. Like this guy was an openly gay Kansas City dude that had random young men, I won't say the T word, showing up to stay at his house. Like that's how well known he was as like a place that you could go and like I mean and yet there was still like murder rumors about him and people would still go there and hide in his shed and shit. Like that kid just didn't pick a random shed to hide in. The one that
might have if he was in the neighborhood and it started thunderstorming.
I don't know.
He's like, "Hey, that's Bobby's house. I'm gonna go hang out in his shed. He won't mind."
Right, but that's what I mean. It wasn't random. He knew that was, hey, that's Bobby's house. Like that's what I mean. Like that's ridiculous. Like he was well known. He was this kind of person with this reputation to go for help. So does that mean that he would help four guys in a row and just kind of just pay for sex and kind of do his thing and everyone more or less survived? But then there was 1 in 5 that he would torture for 3 weeks until he broke their asshole. Like,
yeah, I think it just depends on who it is.
Catching him on the wrong day, fuck around, find out. Jesus,
right? I mean, because I think, and this wasn't just Freddie Kellogg that corroborated this. It's just he was the only one that was really identified through the notebooks. They were talking to all kinds of people in that community. I mean, this was a huge case, and they talked to everybody, and they're like, "Oh yeah, Bobby's weird as fuck," but we just have to suck his dick and let him, go ham on our assholes, and he pays us good money. I mean, and that's, I guess, how it was. I mean, I suppose because people kept going back. I mean, he was just feeding these people. I mean, they're drug addicts. He's just feeding them drugs, and they love that. And then he's giving them money. And, giving them a place to stay because he's not killing every single one of these people. I mean, what's the rhyme or reason about, how he went about choosing these people? I have no idea. I don't partake myself to even begin to know. But, he did. He ended up killing some of them. But again, I don't think that his MO was to kill anybody. I think that if he could viciously rape some of these men and get what he felt, until he was satisfied, then I think that would do for him. And then he'd let him go.
Yeah, that's interesting too, is the hypersexuality aspect of it, to where you're so horny and you need to come so much that the idea of creating some kind of like sex slave is how you see solving this problem.
Yeah.
Is that if I just had someone that I could fuck when I needed to, without any kind of consideration. I don't want a relationship I have to navigate where I have to listen to their needs or do with whatever. And even the transactional aspect of prostitution is too much. Either it's cost prohibitive, because I mean, you're paying these kids good money to bang them up. Well, I mean, if your funds aren't infinite, eventually you're going to be like, well, it's cheaper just to keep them. You know, like
Well, I think that because it wasn't just the sex part of it, it was the deviancy of fucking swabbing drain cleaner in the eyeballs, and I mean, he
that
wanted to hurt them.
that to me, but I almost wonder, is that so much sadism as it is trying to instill compliancy, trying to instill submission, right? Like the cock in the ear, it's goofy, but is it because the cock in the ears thing doesn't hurt them? It just muffles their senses. And that same thing with like taking away their voice, taking away their eyesight, taking away their range of movement. He really just wanted something to fuck. He didn't want to listen to him. He didn't want to have to talk to him. He didn't want to hear him cry. You know, if you were a sadist and it was about the deviancy of torturing them and hearing their screams for help, you wouldn't try to muffle their vocal cords. You didn't want to hear that. You know what I
Well,
mean?
I don't know, because why was he fucking sticking needles all over their body for no reason?
Well, that's a good question. I don't know. You know, I mean,
You
like
know, I mean,
it's
some of it I agree. Like, yes, he would you would blind them, break their fucking their hands, and take out their ability to scream because you don't want to get caught because it
right.
makes them easier.
Eventually, you're dealing with a crazy person here, so the thing shouldn't lie. If you can make too much sense of it, there's something wrong with you. So, like, yeah, I don't claim to have all the answers when it comes to these motherfuckers. But you also, going back to the sexual assault when he was in high school, you have to wonder, did that kind of program something into him that stronger people just use weaker people for sexual release, and that's just kind of the hierarchy that's the order of things, and that's what he was trying to recreate, was that he was victimized as a child, and now he was turning around and victimizing other young
Mhm.
men because that's how it works. That's what you do. That's acceptable. It happened to me. I had to learn to accept it and deal with it and move on. So, okay, you're setting the rules for reality, then I'm going to follow those rules, but I am going to be even more of a monster because those rules are not fair and they don't bring me necessarily comfort. It's like abuse is kind of like cyclical. You know what I mean? Um, if you have that kind of people that are victims of violence when they're at a young age can grow up and be perpetrators of violence themselves, right? So, like, did that start this whole thing in motion, right? Where a predatory older coworker that maybe he was gay already, and maybe he saw it in him, maybe he thought it was consensual, maybe it was, but at that age he can't really legally consent anyway. Something happened, and it kind of set this whole thing in order. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
It set this cycle that he kept trying to repeat. He kept trying to find. He felt sympathy for these young men. He felt protective of them to a certain extent, but at the same time, he couldn't help exploiting them and their weaknesses like he was exploited when he trusted this older coworker.
sure, could be.
You know, and then there's once again this idea of creating a sex slave. Like, what is it about that that's so appealing to some people? You know, I don't know. That's
Yeah, I don't understand it. I'm just not personally in that mindset. I could never even dream to do these things that this person did to these young men. And that's what they were. I mean, I wish I knew. Um, a couple of things that I wanted to point out beforehand. I personally I do believe that there were more victims than what he said.
sure, that makes sense.
I
Yeah,
do believe that, just because again he tracked everything, and so we had all this other shit, and it's just like, well, no, but forget about that stuff. Forget about those pictures of those dead men that you have there, because they think that it's more like 20 people,
it would make sense. Yeah.
but he was insistent that it was only the six. Um,
Well,
you
you had him
know,
dead to right on the six. Why? I mean, he was smart enough not to just confess everything because he was probably trying to stay alive. Although it's
yes,
interesting how he died in jail. Very like, I mean, I'm not saying that it's necessarily a red flag or anything, but when you get to it, you'll get to it.
yeah, I'm gonna talk about that,
Yeah.
yeah, but also, you know, um some of these people, some of these family members, the only way they identified these people was by looking at those pictures.
Yeah,
Paul Howell identified his son hanging upside down in the basement.
yeah.
What the fuck? Why is it so easy to throw a whole ass human body in the garbage? Like, I mean, can we just talk about that for a minute? The only reason why Berdella was caught was because he got bested, right? He was just fucking throwing bodies away in his garbage cans for the fucking trash men to come grab. Why? Why was that so easy?
Because he cut up the pieces small enough. Hate to be the practical voice of reason here, but I mean, are you suggesting the garbage men should go through your garbage and see what you're throwing out?
I guess not, but man, I don't know. There's nothing. I mean, have we changed this? Are there things in play? I mean, when they're fucking throwing the garbage in the incinerators, like, is there nobody fucking standing there just making sure that there's no limbs? You know, I don't know. It just seems like
these kids were, and I mean, absolutely no offense when I say this, but these kids were probably smaller than you. You know what I mean? They were probably young, short, emaciated. I don't want to use the T word, but I mean, come on, fill in the blank. Like,
just before they even died. Well, right,
yeah,
they're starving. You know,
they're not taking up a whole lot of real estate. I mean,
that's true. I guess
you cut them up in small enough pieces, you can fit them in a a garbage bag. We throw some shit on top and on the bottom just to kind of pad it.
Right.
You drain he's draining all the blood, so there's not the mess.
Right, that's what he would do.
Yeah.
It's just fucking crazy. I mean, that's crazy to me. I don't know. I guess I just expected the world to be better, and maybe it is. This is 40 years ago, right? Maybe it's better, but
sure,
that blows my fucking mind how easy it was. But yeah, let's talk about the comeuppance of the guy. I know you want to talk about that. There is some conspiracy there potentially. Berdella eventually died of a heart attack at like 40 something, like 43 or some shit. I mean, really young in prison. And he, before that point, was like making a big fuss, saying that the people in the prison system were purposefully withholding his heart medication.
Yeah.
And then he died of a heart attack. And what happened when the judge that worked his case was told, you know what he said?
Couldn't happen to a nicer guy.
Couldn't have happened to a nicer guy, is what he said. So what do you think, Pat? Do you think that they kind of gave some vigilante justice? You think that was on purpose?
I mean,
be careful what you say. We don't want to get sued, but like, I mean, do you think it's potentially?
I don't think anyone will sue us. I think it's that's a possibility, but I think I'd take it one further and say that if he was really involved, if this was a bigger, bigger operation, if there were more victims, if there was potentially more assailants, that having him die as quickly as possible in prison would have was something that would have been favorable
to avoid talking.
Just in case this guy said some shit down the road. You know, I mean, these Dahmer was killed in prison. This guy was killed in prison. Gacy kind of made it to the electric chair, gas chamber, or whatever. But yeah, I mean, this guy got off so quick, but like you said, it was an existing condition. We knew it was there.
Yeah, it had always been there. Yeah, right.
So him being in jail, I'm sure that just by virtue of the fact of what he did, he probably wasn't treated that well by the rest of the prisoners, let alone the guards and stuff. But if anyone wanted to silence him, that would have been the easiest way to do it.
Yeah. There was also a lot of talk of like, and Berdella ended up giving a bunch of interviews and shit, because he wanted to expel some of the rumors. He insisted that he wasn't a bad guy, but didn't really have any good explanation for why he did what he did. I mean, he kept blaming this movie and was like, "That's why they weren't people." I mean, he said that they weren't people to me at that point. They weren't. They were just objects. But he, wanted to dispel the rumors because there was a lot of people saying that this was tied to, initially, people were saying this was some type of satanic cult. That was the original media claim, was that this was a cult and these were ritualistic killings that he was conducting in there, and that he would have parties where they would sacrifice people. Which, middle of the 80s, satanic panic was very real, very alive at the time. I don't think it was. I don't think it had anything to do with that. There were like rumors that he sold pieces of his victims at his shop. That was unfounded. he did have like a couple of human skulls there, but they weren't, they come to find out they weren't actually real. Surprise, surprise, but um yeah, he wanted to like dispel those rumors that it had anything to do with occultism. He was very gung ho about that.
Well, he was into some weird shit already. I mean, that was kind of the nature of his business.
Yeah.
So whether or not that was just part of his persona or it was an interest like it was with either, like,
Anybody
dude,
else?
if someone were to kill, if something happened to me and you went through every single book that I own, not that I have like terrible stuff or anything, but like, hey, I got books on
Right.
the occult. You know what I mean? It doesn't fucking mean anything. So I don't, yeah, he might have had that
Right.
stuff. And he ran a business where he kind of sold this shit secondhand.
Yeah.
So, stuff is always kind of passing through. Maybe that was an interest of his. I mean, obviously it was an interest of his. He built a business around it, but how much it motivated him, maybe it did, maybe it didn't. I don't know. I think that it's more likely that he was involved in some kind of underground snuff operation than it had anything to do with witchcraft, unless the nature of the underground snuff operation was to fucking collect souls or something, or the amount of energy that's released by tormenting somebody to that point.
Mm-hmm.
And that's why he could keep the bodies, or that's why it's weird that the people he killed by his own hands, he kept as trophies. The other ones he didn't. Does that mean that other people killed them? Or, who knows how much of that journal is real? I mean, there's this tendency that, like, and I know this just from kind of from my day job, but this concept of, if you keep a logbook, it's a legally binding document. Whatever you write in that logbook is supposed to be factually true. Well, why? Because I wrote it down? Well, I could fucking write all kinds of crazy shit in a notebook. Doesn't make it real, but I write logbook on the front of it and suddenly it's a legally binding document. This guy's journals were taken as gospel truth as to what happened. This was everything, right? Maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. I mean, the evidence was very circumstantial, I feel. I'm not saying he didn't do this stuff, it's just they didn't catch him with a lot. I mean, I guess those
right.
pictures,
Even like
yeah.
the cause of death for these individuals, most of the time we're just like, I don't know, he just couldn't handle the drugs, or
Yeah.
he really didn't know what happened, and nobody really knows exactly what happened, except all they have are these logbooks.
Yeah, I saw somewhere that they had when the police caught him, they had him stripped down naked and try to recreate some of the poses in the pictures because they wanted to verify that he actually was the guy in the pictures. So there's like these crazy rape scenes that he was taking Polaroids of, and I don't know what they had this guy do, but I mean, that's
replicate whatever was the other person was doing.
Yeah, how does that work?
Yeah.
But,
which was great. That was pretty crazy. Yeah,
there's no shortage of twinks in Kansas City just pulling off the street. But like, I guess it's just like that goes to show that even they had their suspicions that if they needed to do that to verify that he was the man in the pictures when he's confessing and taking a plea deal, that shows that there was at least some kind of suspicion that he was not the only one doing these things.
Well, he didn't. At that point, he hadn't confessed yet. He didn't take the plea deal yet. That was one of the first things they did in the investigation when they found the Polaroids, was do that. He wouldn't talk. He was absolutely plead the fifth. Was very silent. Would not talk about these things. And they're like, look, we have all these evidence. If this isn't you in the picture, then take fucking pictures with us and show us that it's not you. And now, granted,
and that's what he did, though. He took the pictures.
He took the pictures. Well, right. I mean, and they did eventually take the pictures. But that was before he pled. But he only pled to get out of the death penalty because at that point he was guilty of killing at least 2 people, no matter what. I don't know. It's the first time I had ever read about this case, it just absolutely blew my fucking mind, because at that point in my life, I was like a fucking seasoned serial killer veteran. Like, I was into this shit, and I'd never heard about this. And that's why this episode's titled the way it is, the most horrific serial killer you've never heard of, because nobody's ever heard of this guy. It's fucking crazy to me, because the shit that he did is just insane. It just goes under the rug. Everybody wants to talk about everybody else, Dahmer and Gacy and Bundy, and I want to talk about those people, Richard Ramirez, and it's like, let's fucking talk about this monster, Robert Berdella, because I couldn't. It's like one of the cases. Like I said, I read a lot of shit. I watch a lot of fucked up shit on the internet. This case makes me sick to my stomach. It really does. It really gets to me, and I think it's an injustice that we don't talk about it more. And it's not it's not for shock value. It's not to make you guys wince and feel terribly. I mean, it's to get the information out there, because these were real life people that he murdered, and fucking Christopher Bryson's still out there, and he lived through this shit, and that's just crazy to me. I can't imagine. I don't know what's worse, dying from it or living through it.
I'd choose to live through it if I had to pick one or the other.
I mean,
I know, but I don't know.
I guess it depends on what stage you get to. I mean,
how do you move past it? But people do.
Right.
People go through horrific stuff and survive it.
It's fucking amazing what people can get through. It really is.
And then some of us get a flat tire and it ruins our day, and we
right.
it puts things in perspective. I think another really interesting thing to take away from this is how much human beings can hurt another human being and not and be okay with it.
Yeah.
I think that most of us are appalled by this level of physical violence, and hopefully we don't have a huge listener base that abuses people physically, but I think more often than not we abuse each other emotionally.
Oh yeah.
And don't necessarily have a sense of remorse about it. I think it's something where, like, as much as you see these details and you're like, how could anyone do this to another human being? How long do you really have to ask yourself that question before you kind of be like, well, granted, this is taking it to an extreme, but I know some pretty terrible people.
Right. Yeah.
I mean, this is the volume turned up a little bit. Don't get me wrong. I don't know people this bad, but we all know some real pieces of shit.
Oh yeah.
And so we're shocked, but we're not that shocked.
Right. This is what we are capable of. These lengths are what we as people are capable of doing. Now, like Pat said, this is an extreme case, but certainly we're all capable of doing it.
Yeah, and that's why, like, not that I have to turn everything into a conspiracy, but for me to say that this was the work of one person isn't. I don't find comfort in that if it's one person or if it's 5 people.
It doesn't feel there. It feels like there's not a lot of closure on this case. Just because there isn't, you're right. Most of it is convicted through circumstantial evidence, and there just isn't a lot to go, yeah, but we found all the bodies at his property. They didn't, though,
Well, you can never find all the bodies because there's so many missing people that have never been accounted for over the years. Oh, yeah. I mean, there's like, 100,000 in this country alone every year.
Absolutely.
Ridiculous number is. So it's like, there's bodies you don't even know that are missing. There's people that could be associated with this that you don't even know.
Yeah. Yeah.
And I think the only way you're going to get the real answers on that is to go to the community. I think there's a documentary in that. I'm probably not the one to do it, but I really hope somebody does someday.
It's something that needs to be talked about. I mean, maybe we're just late to the game getting there. I don't think so. I think that we need to look at these little fringe, tight-knit communities and see what we can do to have more protections for them. What's the culture like for us to have shit like this go under the radar like it does? I mean, like you said, Pat, obviously they were suspicious of this guy, but then they would still go to his fucking house. Why?
Because, I mean, hey, look, sometimes when you're in desperate need, you're in desperate need. And,
even if it costs you your life?
Yeah, but rumors are just that, rumors. There might have been rumors about this guy, but I mean, who knows? Jesus, what kind of rumors do you think there are about you?
Not that I fucking...
No, I know, nothing that dangerous, but people talk shit. I mean, who fucking knows? That's it. And if it's raining outside and you got to hide in the shed, like, if you're that desperate, this guy was an option. And that's the thing. You might have had, 4 out of 5 guys may walk away from this from a bruised butthole and $50 in their pocket and, whatever, lived a fucking other day. And it's that 1 in 5 that no one ever hears from again.
Right.
But everyone that's knocking on that door needs something. Everyone that knocks on that door is in dire straits. So and just like that first kid, whether or not, the last stop they ever made was going to Robert Bordella's house, or it was the last stop they made before going somewhere else. Did he take the kid to the dance competition, or did the kid never even make it there? Who knows?
No, he didn't even make it there.
But that's my point, is that,
gotcha.
like, these kids could go to his house to get cash before they hop on a train and go back home to Iowa or something. You know what I mean? And maybe they made it to that train, or maybe they died screaming in his basement with a traffic cone hanging out of their ass. Like, who knows?
Well, this is why we need to decriminalize sex work.
Yeah, for that.
We need to have better regulations. You should be allowed to partake in sex work if you'd like. Nothing wrong with that, but you should have protections in place so that you can do it safely.
Then there'll be unions and costs will go through the roof.
Well, but
I want meal breaks.
People won't be dying then left and right.
Did we talk about that, the sex worker meal breaks? Did I tell you that story? Oh my God. I'll tell you that off the air.
All right. We'll talk about it some other time. But interesting case. Like I said, if you guys have heard of this, let me know. If you haven't, let me know. I know that it was like I said, it was a doozy. I hope my fun facts, my palate cleansers helped. I can only do so much, guys. This is just a terrible subject.
I'll say this too: if you're a Midwestern small town gay person that has any kind of insight, because I know enough. Being a filmmaker, I know enough people that are homosexual here in Chicago, and like, I honestly want to reach out to a couple of them and be like, how. Are there rumors like this everywhere? Are there predatory men in every bar that you go into, every gay bar you go into? There's some guy that's a regular. Because you know what I mean? There's some person there that everybody knows. If you're hard up for money, you can go home with Tyler, but he may smack you up a little bit. And, there was this rumor once about this one guy that was new in town and no one ever saw again. Like, is that common? Is that common? And it's not talked about because it's an embarrassment, because they don't want to be like, oh, great, we're just trying to get, equal rights and like respected and part of, we can't talk about how there's a high percentage of serial killers.
I can say that, like, as not a gay man, but just as a woman, like, yeah, there are fucking dudes that like are weirdly predatory, and we all just kind of ignore it. I don't know. We all just kind of are like, it's just how it is. You just know to stay away from that person, but like, there's not anything you can do about the fact that he's a fucking creep, because we can't quite prove that he's been an actual creep to anybody, but we all kind of know that he is.
What do you like? Who? Like people we know?
Yes. Everybody that we know. Oh yeah, there's definitely people that we know. There's definitely people in the fucking cryptid community. Listen, guys, listen. Oh, subscribe to the Patreon. Maybe I'll do a whole episode. Let me tell you something. The amount of like older, like conservative white man researchers that I reach out to for like perspective on a topic, who have turned around and flirted with me. And I don't mean like they're like, oh yeah, here's some they're not like just nice. I mean, they're straight up like calling me beautiful, talking about how they're not used to getting that kind of attention from a woman like me. I mean, shit like that.
The bastards.
Straight up fucking gross. Straight up fucking gross.
Really? If someone calls you beautiful, that's gross?
Yeah.
That says more about you than them.
No, it doesn't. If I go, hey, I'm researching this topic and I'd like some information on it. Well, hello, beautiful. That's wrong.
I know.
I didn't slide into your DMs for you to fucking patronize me and talk about me like I'm a fucking object. Like, I'm here to talk about research. I'm an intellectual. No, that's not the right time to start flirting with somebody. It's weird and creepy.
When is the right time?
When is the right time?
After you've just used our promo code Stay Weird, get 20% off your Manscaped order.
Yeah.
Free shipping.
Yeah.
Once that thing gets delivered to your house, you shave your balls, and then you can call her beautiful when she asks you for research assistance.
You can call me beautiful all you want, as long as you order some Manscaped products. Take care of those balls. Take care of your beasts. And what an episode to start a sponsorship. Sorry, guys. maybe you don't want to work with us ever again, or
I
maybe
know. I'm like, man, I hope they ask me to ship that shit back now.
maybe
Do we have
everybody
to?
that listens. This is why we really need you guys to go buy their products because
We're really bad at this.
yeah,
Our
we're
heart's in
really
the right place. But
really terrible at this. Sorry. No, this is what people are here for. So,
sure.
this is what our listenership is. So, and I love all of you little weirdos out there. Especially, I love you extra if you go to manscaped.com and purchase something using code Stay Weird. All right, I'll stop now.
Right.
Anyway, anything else, Pato? Before you won't be here next week.
No, I will not. I'll be traveling abroad. So
Tell everybody
I look,
Thanksgiving, happy Thanksgiving or whatever.
yeah, everything's even you too.
And we will talk about what you did when you get back.
Sure.
And we'll see you guys back here. I'll see you guys back here next Wednesday.